Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source for quality, affordable land in the state of New Mexico. So we have done it again. We have managed to do the near impossible one more time, and we have gotten a 1-acre lot in the Tres Piedras Estates subdivision. This, of course, is unicorn rare. We have bought roughly 200 properties out there in the time that we've been trafficking in this subdivision, buying and selling and buying and selling. And maybe only six times, have we been able to combine adjacent lots. These things are near impossible to come by, but we've managed to find yet another combination of adjacent acres that totals up to 1 acre. And very excited about this. Looking forward to selling it. I will tell you that not a day goes by, literally, where I don't get multiple calls and multiple emails about Tres Piedras with some question akin to, do you have a 1 acre? When will you have a 1 acre? Can I combine any of the other lots you have to form a 1 acre? So on and so forth. And I try to answer these questions as politely as possible. That being said, in my mind, I'm like, we have an FAQ, and if you just come down here and look, it's like the second question on here, and it addresses this whole topic. Additionally, a lot of people will tell me they have problems reading the spreadsheet. I think the spreadsheet is intuitive. I think it's logical. I think it should be, fairly evident that, like, 1-1A would be adjacent to 1-1B. But I still get a lot of questions about that. And can I combine 197B with 556J? No, you can't do that. They're nowhere near one another. So I guess I have yet to figure out a way to properly write this on the website that adequately explains it. Whatever the case, these things are highly desirable, coveted by a lot of people. And so whenever we get one, we get very excited about listing them. With all that said, let's intro the property. This is reference number TSNM-8624, located as noted in Taos County in the Tres Piedras Estates subdivision. This 1 acre property is a combination of 2 adjacent half-acre lots, and the legal is Unit 1, Block 31, Lots C and H. And in case you're saying to yourself, hey, Hemingway, how are C and H adjacent? That doesn't seem logical. Well, I understand, people. But if you come down here to the gallery, you take a look at this plat map representation that we have. This is the way that the lot block structure is laid out throughout the entire 9 units of Tres Piedras Estates. And so C is, yes, logically adjacent to B, and it's logically adjacent to D, but it is also illogically adjacent to H. And so this is an HC combination, half acre with legal easements along both the western and eastern boundaries. For the record, guys, if you're asking, if you haven't read my very detailed FAQ, which again is right here, okay? If you haven't read this and you're wondering why we don't have a plat map up here, I will tell you that plat maps in Taos County were never digitized, number 1. Number 2, if you had one in your hands, you would see it's about the size of a refrigerator. And number 3, if you had it in your hands and you had it an inch from your face, you still couldn't read it. It is very difficult to read. It's very largely illegible. So even if we could get a copy and blow up different portions of it and put it on the website, it would do you no good, I promise. Anyway, with all that said, this 1 acre property, by the way, in case I forgot to say, it is priced at $3,000, and like all of our other 1 acres. And let's pull it up on a map, show you guys exactly where it is. As with all of our listings, come down here, click the GPS coordinates. The property shall appear on the Google Maps. Now, I have talked and written so much about Tres Piedras Estates that if you are genuinely interested in this subdivision, you probably have already acquainted yourself with a lot of the facts that we've discussed in these videos and posted on the website. If not, I'd encourage you to do so. Whatever the case, I'm not going to reiterate a lot of that stuff here. I just want to talk about where this is located, potential road conditions, and then I do want to talk about why 1 acre lots are so difficult to come by. So first off, as noted, this property is in Unit 1. Unit 1 is in the northernmost part of the subdivision, and up here is basically where it ends. So you're just shy of the northernmost part of the subdivision. I actually don't know if this is public land or private land. There is a bison ranch very close by over here, and I don't know if they still own some of this land or if this is government land. Whatever the case, property's up here at the tail end of the subdivision. Now, if you zoom back and you look at the map, what you will see is that this property sits roughly about 4.3 miles. Right-click, measure distance, ba-boom, 4.3 miles north of the 64. There are a lot of you guys who want to take advantage of land closer to the 64 because the road conditions are going to be better. They get driven more often, number 1. Number 2, there are more people living down here. If you kind of zoom in, you can see some homes or trailers or encampments or whatever. And additionally, some of those people do have power extending out from the highway to their properties. Excuse me while I pause the video. do have power extending out to their properties. Whereas when you go further north in this subdivision, you run into a lot less of that. In fact, up here, the people who tend to like these properties are, of course, those who want to be left alone, those who want more privacy, so on and so forth. Now, of course, this 1 acre thing it kind of trumps all that. It's more important than actual location. Whatever the case, do want to make you aware that it is 4.3 miles north of the highway. Now, this road, which I do not believe has a name, or at least doesn't have a name on Google, you can take this one pretty much as a straight shot all the way up to the property. Now, because we don't have for sale signs marking these properties, if you actually did go out there and you want to try to locate this thing, I would tell you, again, right-click, measure distance. It's about, what is that, 4.1 miles exactly till you would make a left turn. And then if you want to see a little bit further, you could do one of these to help figure it out. You say from the turn to roughly here is 350 feet, and then from here to there, so on and so forth. That's honestly one of the best ways that you can do this. And the cell reception out there is good enough that you will be able to manage that. The point being, if you're watching your odometer, you can pretty much navigate it that way, and you'll have a sense of, okay, this is the piece of land that I just bought. Now, of course, we always encourage buyers. It's best to get a survey done, particularly if you're going to build on these things. That being said, if you do want to get a basic ballpark sense of where is this property, that's how I would locate it. Now, I was touching upon road access earlier. So the further north that you go into the subdivision, the less traffic the roads become. When you're within a mile of the 64, you've still got pretty good road access. But once you get up here, it gets a little tricky. Of course, it goes without saying, should go without saying, that you want a larger vehicle, a truck, a four-wheel drive, something like that. I will tell you that last year we actually sold, if you look at the spreadsheet, we sold 161 A and B, and I believe they were around here, I want to say, on the map. And the guy who bought them actually owned a construction equipment business, and he had whatever the equipment it is that you would use to sort of grade roads, to sort of, tamp things down and make them easier to drive. And he had said to me last year that getting out there was a little difficult, so he took some equipment out and he began sort of carving his own path out to his property. You may benefit from that. Who knows? I don't stay in touch with the guy, but I know that he was doing that. I had heard multiple reports of that at the time. So best way into the property might be taking Calabro Road right here. Take it all the way up to this road right here, bang a sharp right, and then down to the property. And as noted, because this guy who was carving roads out is actually so close to the subject property, you may actually find it easier than we would think. I don't know. I'm not promising anything. I'm just saying that's what I was being told last year. Whatever the case, I know my photographer has been out there enough times and has at least attested to the fact that, yeah, you can get around. You can get around. It's tough in places, but you can get around. One quick thing I just want to mention here, guys. I know a lot of you people like trees. You like a lot of vegetation on your property. This one seems to be devoid of that. That being said, the forested areas are very close all around, etc. I will also point out this situation here. I don't know if this is somebody living out there or if this is somebody who was living out there and now they've left a whole bunch of junk. But it looks like they managed to get an RV out there. So if they can do that, you can probably get whatever you want to get out there. Now, quick thing. For those who don't know the value of the 1 acre lot, I'll just quickly touch on this. I'll quickly reiterate this. In New Mexico, the conventional wisdom is if you have less than 3/4 of an acre property in undeveloped, quote-unquote, undeveloped areas like this, without city water, without city sewer, you can't build on it. That's not entirely true. It has to do really with the distance between the well and the septic system, so one does not contaminate the other. That being said, people who live in Tres Piedras don't generally drill wells anyway because the water table out here is fairly deep and hence prohibitively expensive. Additionally, you've got a lot of off-grid types. You've got a lot of people out here who are using solar. They're building earthship homes, and with that comes rainwater catchment systems. It comes compost toilets, things like that, and that's how they're handling the septic situation. That's how they handle the water situation a lot of times, etc. So, point being, the advantage of the 1 acre lot, the advantage of having 2 half-acre lots, is that you surpass that 3/4 acre threshold. So if it were something that you aspire to do as far as putting in a well, putting in a septic, it's something that you would actually be able to do on that property, and it would be markedly less expensive for you. Number one. Number two, I should also add, it's just easier in general to build on properties of that size in this state. Zoning law in general accommodates larger size properties like that. more than it does quarter and half acre lots. So it's not to say that you can't build on the quarter and the halves. It's just a lot easier on the 1 acres. So blah, blah, blah. Anyway, with all that said, guys, I have discussed this to death in this video. I've written a lot about it here. Again, on the FAQ, on this page, the main Tres Piedras page, this is going to answer, it answers certainly 99.9% of the questions that we get. I do, however, just want to address why these 1 acres are so scarce, why they are so difficult to come by. So we're going to look at pretty pictures while I blather on. I've discussed this in one video in the past, but for those who never got a chance to see it, I'll give you some of the history. So this area was bought up by a developer in the early 60s, Great Southwest Land Corporation. They came in, chopped everything up into quarter and half acre lots. So all throughout the 9 units that comprise Tres Piedras Estates, you don't have anything larger than a half acre. And of course, at the time, they sold all these lots, representing them as, hey, this is a developing area, this place is going to be booming in 10 years, there's going to be families and hotels and ski resorts and blah, blah, blah. And so you should get in now and you should buy a property out here in Tres Piedras. And so a lot of people, fell for that sales pitch. And honestly, in the early 60s, that may have been a fine idea. Whatever the case, because of the price range in which they were selling properties, most people who bothered to invest in the region did not buy more than 1 lot. Occasionally, I will encounter some people who own more than 1 lot, but they're spread throughout the subdivision. I guess somebody might have thought that was a better idea at the time. I don't know. But the point is, you don't find a lot of first-generation owners who bought 2 adjacent lots. Now, because they were, too expensive at the time. So that's number 1. Number 2, about 10 years after they started selling lots in this region, the state of New Mexico was a sort of environmentally friendly period in, U.S. history. Earth Day became a thing in the early 70s. And the New Mexico EPA was created. And during that time, they came up with, and the counties in New Mexico adopted a more sort of uniform regulations about the placement of a well and a septic. As I talked about earlier, they have to be yay far apart. And that yay far apart shook out to be basically 3/4 of an acre. You can't put 2 on a property that's under that amount of land. And that basically made all of these quarter and half acre properties exponentially less valuable. So because of that, my impression is that a lot of people who own land out there lost all hope that it would ever be developed, that it would ever be worth anything, and they just sort of stuck the deed in a drawer in the early 70s. They never looked at it again. Now, reason number 3, and this kind of ties in with reason number 2, is that if you go back and you look at these deeds that were written back in the early 60s, this company that sold all this land never anticipated that anybody they were selling to might die. And so the deeds are written in such a fashion in which if they sold it to 2 people, husband and wife, the husband and the wife have to be alive 50, 60 years later when I'm trying to buy these things. So that's one of the problems we run into. Another is that the few people who seem to have the foresight to want to pass the property on to the next generation invariably did nothing with it. So you've got a lot of people who are paying taxes on property in Tres Piedras who don't actually own it. They can't sell it to us. We can't buy it from them. But, of course, the county is not going to object. They've got a source of revenue. They've got, a solid $5 annually from these people who are paying taxes on lots they don't own. So that's a very common thing. If you come back and look at this spreadsheet here, we've bought close to 200 properties out there listed, let's see, about 180 some right now. We've got another 20 or 40 that we're, in this process of buying right now. For every one we buy, there's 3 that we don't buy. There's 3 that we have to reject because of deed issues. Because, again, somebody's dead, and nobody ever bothered to transfer the property from Generation A to Generation B so as Generation B could do anything with the land. Essentially, they never probated the property properly. And what you find all these years later is that when you tell somebody, it's a fairly easy process for the layman to navigate in the state of New Mexico for land of this price range. It's really just a matter of calling the probate court, shuffling some papers, and you could get the property put in your name after a few months, That being said, most people don't have the time, the energy, the inclination to do such a thing. So a lot of them will just let the property default, or they'll just keep paying the taxes on it. The other big reason why you don't find a lot of adjacent lots out there is that the company that had originally developed this region went bankrupt in the late 70s. Some of that was because of litigation that had to do with this subdivision. Whatever the case, if you look at county records, if you bother to poke around on like an assessor's map of who owns what plot of land, you'll see that bankrupt, defunct company, that one that's been bankrupt and defunct for 40 years, still has their name on title on a bunch of properties out there. And the state and the county have done nothing to take these lots back, to try and repossess them, sell them, make some money off them. They haven't done anything to that effect. Now, generally speaking, because the taxes in this region are $5 annually, it probably takes a while. It probably takes 10, 12, 15 years, something like that, before it would ever be worth it, before the county would actually make money to go through the process of essentially foreclosing on the lot, selling it at auction, etc. So, I mean, in New Mexico, theoretically, the law is after 3 years of not paying taxes, the property reverts to the state. Practically speaking, however, I think it's more expensive for them to foreclose on the lot and resell it than it is to just leave it sit there with no one paying taxes on it. So these are all the many, 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 many reasons why you cannot find adjacent acreage out there, either because nobody bought adjacent lots. If they did buy adjacent lots, they died and nobody ever did anything in conveying the property properly to the next person, the next generation, the next heir. Or because, they own 4 or 5 or 6 lots, but they're adjacent all to lots owned by a company that's been out of business for 40 years, since the Carter administration. And so that is why when we do actually stumble upon these things, when we do actually find 2 owners who are willing to sell to us, and much less sell to us at the prices that we offer. If we were offering $1 million for every one of these lots, yeah, we could probably get more adjacents. But at the prices that we offer, to find people, 2 neighbors who just happen to, they've never met, but they own land next to each other and they're both willing to sell to us at the same time, that's really tough to do. So that is why these things are so difficult to come by. And as I discussed earlier, with all the, sort of zoning regulations within the state, both environmental as well as county regulations, as well as building codes, it really benefits someone if you're going to be building any sort of real structure, or even if you're, experimenting with some sort of off-grid thing, a tiny home, a shipping container home, an earthship home, the 1 acre lot is exponentially more ideal for your purposes than the quarter or the halves. So that's why these things are rare, and that's why they sell so fast when we do have them, because the people who are familiar with this region, who do know this subdivision, know that and tend to jump on these things really fast. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. With all that said, guys, if you are so inclined to purchase this property, come up here, click the Buy Now button. It'll take you to a secure checkout page. Excuse me. We're going to ask you a couple questions. What name do you want on the deed? What's the tax address? Where's Taos County going to send that $5 annual tax bill to? Agree to the terms of service. Click Next. And on the very next page, we're going to ask you for credit or debit card information. Once you enter that, once you give us the $31.50 total, we are the owners of the land. As far as we're concerned, once you give us the money, you are now the owner of the land. So the way this process works, within 24 hours, we're going to get in touch with you. We're going to email you a copy of the new deed. Once you approve it, once you tell us, yes, everything's good, we spelled your name right, we spelled your kids' names right, whatever, we're going to autograph it, notarize it, mail it off to the county to be recorded, and once they record, they're going to forward it on to you. So from start to finish, it's about 3 weeks before that hard copy, that deed is in your hand. That being said, as noted, we own it, so as soon as you give us money, it is yours to do with as you please. Go out there, begin camping, begin partying, begin building, begin doing whatever you like, getting the property surveyed, etc. But there is a little lag time before the hard copy shows up in the mail. Anyway, with all that said, guys, thanks for watching me blather on for another 20 minutes about Tres Piedras. As noted, we love buying and selling properties out here. It's a really easy subdivision to sell land in. You guys really like it because it is RV friendly, because it does allow you to do all the things that other places in New Mexico won't. And of course, it's a really picturesque area, and you're only like 20, 30 minutes from the ski resorts out there and from the heart of Taos itself. So, great properties. Hope you guys take advantage of this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.